Okay, so this is graphing using slope-intercept form. Right now, so far, we've learned how to graph using a table, and we've learned how to graph using intercepts. Guess what? This method is the quickest and easiest one. I know, I waited to the last minute to show you, but it was important for you to learn the other methods. If you can graph using slope-intercept form, there's hardly even any work that you have to do. Maybe getting y by itself depending on the equation. So today should be a happy day for you. All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to talk about our notes. So slope-intercept form, you know what it is. What is slope-intercept form? It's y equals mx plus b. So my definition, a linear equation can be written in the form y equals mx plus b. So that works for linear equations. What does linear mean? The graph looks like a line. That's right. And then parallel? Well, lines are parallel if they are in the same plane and they never intersect. And we're going to learn something about their slope. So leave this right now and say the slope, and then we're going to fill it in as we go along and discover what we find out about the slope. Okay. Sorry. So a linear equation, I'm looking down here at this, in the form of y equals mx plus b. It's written in slope-intercept form. Okay, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So we're going to just write on the line here slope because it's pointing to the m in this equation, and that means it's pointing to the 2 in this equation. And then the b is the y-intercept, and it's pointing to the b and the 1, the y-intercept. Okay, so here's where I'm going to teach you how to graph using slope-intercept form. It's so quick and so easy that sometimes students miss the steps because it's so fast. So what you would want to do is then pause the video and rewind and watch it again. But what we will do, every time we have an equation, we're going to first identify m and b. That's the key thing. So m in this equation is 2, b is 1. Now b stands for what? Y-intercept. But guess what? Here's a little trick. It also stands for begin. Not officially, but that's Mrs. Wyman's thing. It stands for begin. So y-intercept, what would the coordinates of this be? It would be 0, 1. So this is my very first value that I'm going to plot on my graph, 0, 1. Okay, so there's 0, 1. Now from that, I'm going to do the slope. And the slope has to be written as a fraction for this. This is where I have been saying, don't change it. I want it to be a fraction. I want it to be a fraction. Finally, today is the day you find out why I want it to be a fraction. Well, 2 isn't a fraction. How do we make 2 a fraction? We just put it over 1. And what ratio is slope? What general ratio? You know what it is. It's rise over run. It's the change in the y's over the change in the x's. So for this guy, I'm going to do 2 in the rise and 1 in the run. So 2 in the rise, that's the change in the y direction. I'm here at my beginning point, my y-intercept, and I have to go 2, a positive 2. Which way is that? Up. 1, 2. So I've gone up 2. I'm not making a point yet because now I need to do 1 in the run, which is over 1. So there is my new point. I went up 2 over 1, and I can keep doing that same pattern for the next guy. Up 2 over 1. If I had more graph paper, I'd go up 2 over 1 again. Now I'm going to give you a little tip if you want to go back the other way. The other way, how would you get to it? It'd be this point right here, right? Down 2, back 1. And you're like, but that's not what it says. It says 2 over 1. But what is down 2? It's negative 2. What is to the left 1? It's negative 1. What is negative over a negative equal? You got it, positive. So that's still a slope of 2. Once I draw those points, I only need a couple. I can make my line across the whole coordinate plane and have my arrows going in both directions. There you go. No x and y intercept needed. No table needed. You just graphed y equals 2x plus 1 by just identifying m and b. And that's the only work you'll need to show me from now on is the m and the b. The last thing I want you to do, though, is to see if it makes sense. Did you make some predictions about what this line would look like? Remember when we were doing that before? Where was it going to cross the y-axis? At 1. Does it cross at 1? Yes. It's a slope of 2. Is that a positive or negative number? It's a positive number, so that means the slope makes the line go what? Up. Did it go up? Sure. And then is 2 bigger than 1? It sure is, so that's going to be steep. Is this line steeper than 45 degrees? It sure is. So we know that we graphed it right. That's it. Way to go. You got it. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to skip over, let's see if they got one for me. Nope, we have to solve for y on those. So we'll stay right here. We're just going to identify the slope and y-intercept on a couple of these. All right, so example 1, identify the slope and y-intercept of the line. Well, it's y equals mx plus b form. There's not technically an m here, so there is a 1 in front of it. So now you know what the m is, okay? Y equals mx plus b. Okay, so the equation is in the form y equals mx plus b. So the slope of the line is 1, or you could write it as a fraction, 1 over 1. The y-intercept is 3. Okay, so go ahead and do number 1 right now. Pause the video, and then come on back and see how you did. You should have said that the m is 4, and the b is negative 1. Did you catch that? That's like adding a negative. Okay, there it is. Okay, now let's go back up to example B. There's a problem. It's not in slope-intercept form. This is why we did section 3.8, getting those y's by itself. Remember that section? We have to solve for y. So we're going to do the work for B right here. We need to get y by itself. What's happening? Negative 2x is being added. So what's the opposite of a negative? Positive. Those two are not like terms, and now you can see why before I always wanted you to write the x term first. You write the x term first, so it's in slope-intercept form. Their notes over here are subtract negative 2x. That's kind of confusing, so I don't really like subtract and negative. We're just going to say we added 2x. Now what's the slope of this line? 2. What's the y-intercept of this line? 5. Great. So this solving for y sometimes is the hardest part for kids. So what you're going to do right now is you're going to do those 3 examples down there, pause it, and then come back and take a look at the answers on the video. All right, so number 2, when you solve for y, it ended up being y equals 2x plus negative 4. Subtract, divide by negative. So m is 2, b is negative 4. Number 3. All you needed to do was divide everything by 4. Keep it as a fraction, remember? Because that's going to help us to graph rise over run. So it's 3/4 and 4. Last guy, subtract by 6x, divide. It ends up being y equals negative 2x plus negative 7. So m is negative 2, b is negative 7. Go ahead and see Mrs. Wyman if you're having trouble on any of those, and I'll be happy to help you out. Okay, so let's now go to page 26. We're going to graph this equation. We're going to use that slope-intercept method I showed on the first example. The first thing, though, remember, you have to make sure to be able to graph using this little shortcut method, it has to be in slope-intercept form. This guy is not. He's in standard form. Remember standard form? So subtract 4x to each side, and we get y equals negative 4x plus 2. Always write the x term first. The constant comes by itself. Then we're going to identify the slope and the y-intercept. The slope is the number in front of x, the coefficient. It's negative 4. The y-intercept is the number by itself, the constant. It is 2. And I'm going to make my negative 4 over 1 right now because this guy's going to get graphed and I want him to be a fraction. Okay, now I'm going to do a step 2.5. S-T-E-E-P, step, not 2 E's, 1. Goodness, step 2 1/2. And guess what? I'm worried that YouTube's going to cut me off again on the over the 10 minutes. So I'm going to pause and you can come back for part 2 of the notes, get a quick drink or whatever you need.